Hello again. I'm often accused by people commenting on this channel of censoring their comments by deleting things with which I disagree. I need hardly mention that I've never deleted a single comment from this channel. It's actually quite funny because, of course, my own replies to comments are frequently removed by YouTube, so I seldom get a chance to explain what is happening. Of course, I've also had videos removed because they breach what YouTube calls its community guidelines, and that too is something of a nuisance. YouTube's position is roughly like that of a telephone company in that they allow the public to communicate with each other by either posting videos or typing comments and so on, or replying to the comments. So really they are simply a neutral service, or should be, I should say. In Britain there are laws which make it an offence to do things like incite race hatred or threaten people, and these have been used against people putting stuff on social media sites. So if I ring somebody up and threaten to kill them, the offence is committed by me, not by the telephone company for transmitting the message. So YouTube really don't need to worry about that sort of thing at all. But anyway, that's their position. I can understand why YouTube doesn't want to facilitate somebody calling for a race war, for example. It would be irresponsible of them. Although it would be the individual who would be legally liable in such a case rather than the network or server which are used. YouTube, however, do not seem to be worried so much about keeping to the law strictly as they do about making rules of their own which restrict what may or may not be said on their site, and their rules don't really have anything to do with the law of either Britain or America or any other country as I can see. They simply decide what people will be able to say and what they won't be able to say. What I'm driving at is if they limited themselves to preventing people inciting violence or racial hatred, that would be fine by me, but they go a good deal further than that. Take, for example, the word Jew. Because I have in the past posted videos relating to Israel, the sinking of the USS Liberty in 1967 and so on, comments often come up mentioning Jews or supposed Jewish influence in the world, or specifically in Britain or the United States. I'm not a great fan of such ideas and have of course robustly challenged some of the comments which people have made. But that doesn't mean that I don't think they shouldn't be able to make those comments. Often, though, my own challenges to conspiracies involving the Rothschilds or whomever are themselves removed by YouTube because I use the word Jew in them. For YouTube, any mention of Jews, whatever the context, is viewed as dangerous and provocative, which is frankly a bit mad. Race is another minefield, and I've had videos removed and been banned for weeks at a time for speculating about possible inherent differences, either in cognitive ability, physical development and so on, which may be associated with ethnicity. One of the bans was for quoting research relating to the proportions and capacity of human skulls in various parts of the world. I gave references to various anthropologists and discussed the matter at some length, only to find the video removed by YouTube, and myself banned obviously for a fortnight. I was quite baffled by this until I read the fine print of their community guidelines on hate speech. I give a link in the description to this video to YouTube's guidance on what they call hate speech. They give a specific example of hate speech, which is to suggest that some ethnicity may be less intelligent than us because their brains are smaller. My discussion of a perfectly normal and unobjectionable anthropological field of study, that is to say the shape and size of skulls, had been classified as hate speech on those grounds. One of the major problems is that the removal of comments is usually undertaken by a robot rather than a human being. The robot has been told to watch out for words like Jew, black, white and so on, and to remove comments which contain these words just to be on the safe side. To give an example of how this absolutely mad system works, a few weeks ago I posted a reply to a comment here in which I mentioned that black children tend to reach their gross motor milestones earlier than white children. That is to say, they stand and walk earlier on the whole. This is cross-cultural. It's observed in British and American cities, African rainforest or farms in the Caribbean. So I suggested it might be an inherent characteristic. That comment of mine was removed within minutes because it had contained the words black and white and was therefore likely to be hate speech, encouraging violence against some minority or other. Does anybody see the nature of the problem here with that particular YouTube algorithm? It is in connection with the COVID-19 pandemic, though, that YouTube really have excelled themselves in their attempts to prevent anybody saying anything which might run counter to the received wisdom, and I'm honestly not sure why they are adopting such a stance. The last video of mine to be removed, leading to my being banned for a few weeks, was one which I posted about epidemics of viral diseases in Britain and the United States. I was foolish enough to discuss various flu epidemics and to list the numbers of deaths in each. It didn't take long for this to be removed as medical misinformation, even though I'd provided sources such as the British Medical Journal, that sort of thing. I give a link to the YouTube medical misinformation guidelines, which tell us that misinformation includes claims that the death rate from seasonal flu is higher than the death rate of COVID-19. I'd better not discuss this any further, but suggest that viewers who are interested look at the figures for the Hong Kong flu epidemic of 1968, or perhaps the earlier 1959 epidemic. Here is a case where YouTube have decided that accurate information must be repressed. I should say really suppressed, but certainly they wish to repress or suppress it. Why they have done so is more than I can say. I'm not sure what to make of YouTube's community guidelines. The desire not to give a platform to those advocating violence is laudable enough, but somehow these guidelines have mutated into a set of specific rules which prevent discussion of matters which are of great interest to ordinary people. It's hard to see how talking about epidemics of influenza in 1968 or 1959 could really cause harm to anybody. But YouTube have declared that they are quite determined there should be no such debates about medical history on their site. Why would they make such a decision? I think that YouTube have their own view of the world and wish to ensure that those using the site do not deviate from their own perspective, and if they do, then they'll be removed. In short, they are shaping the opinions of users and only allowing them a partial and distorted glimpse of some pretty important events in the modern world. I have no idea at all why they're doing this.